Hi, my name is Teresa Richards, and I am a mindset and productivity coach for perfectionists. I'm the host of the Valued Life podcast, where I help you conquer your fear of failure, stop procrastinating, and create mindful productivity systems so that you can achieve more in less time without stressing out. I'm so happy you're here. So let's jump right into the episode. Today is all about hustle culture. And if you don't know, I'm very anti-hustle culture. It's no secret. I preach about anti-hustle culture all the time. And it's mainly because I used to be someone who was a big advocate for hustle culture, like grinding, working hard all the time, late nights, early mornings, working. That was my motto. And I'm telling you right now, it's not worth it. There are other ways to be productive. And that's what I want to talk about today. So this podcast episode is called You Need to Let Go of Hustle Culture If You Want to Succeed in Life. And I feel like a lot of people nowadays are really getting behind this anti-hustle culture movement and embracing a soft life. I remember about 10 years ago, it was very big. But now I'm seeing a lot of the YouTubers and like the influencers that used to preach about hustle culture. All of a sudden, I'm noticing that a lot of them are turning around and being like, guys, look after yourself. Like, it's not worth it. I'm like chronically stressed. My family and my friendships and my relationships are falling apart. And like, oh my God, like I've burnt out so many times and I have this problem going on in my life. Like, guys, look after yourself. So I'm kind of glad that I kind of got out of that hustle culture mindset now. And it's kind of good just seeing these influencers really reiterate that, especially when they were the champions of hustle culture. So yeah, and if you don't know, hustle culture is basically the glorification of constant busyness, overwork, and the relentless pursuit of like productivity and success. It normally promotes the idea that there's always more to strive for. So it's just like, whilst you're sleeping, your competitors are working, and that kind of like mindset. There's more money to make. There's a bigger title, a better promotion. You can smash the ceiling a lot higher than the one that you've already smashed. Like there's always something more. It's very goals driven. And again, like I say, like it is the illusion of success. Like you think that if I'm constantly grinding, I'm going to be successful. And that is just not the truth. Like it just means valuing workaholism, you're sacrificing your personal well-being. And worst of all, I think, is that you're tying your worth to your achievements and what you do. So if you don't get the achievements or you don't accomplish what you wanted or someone takes away what your achievement or whatever it is, or you're not as productive as you want to be, you wake up one day and you just can't complete your to-do list. People with this really hustle culture mindset, sometimes they crumble because their worth is tied to what they do and how they do it. And if they're not doing the things that they want to do, then in their mind, they are worthless. And as you can tell, I feel really passionate about it because it's like I'm speaking to my past self. My past self really believed that if I went to a Russell Group university, if I got a 2-1 in my undergrad, if I went on, did a master's and got like a merit or a distinction, then I'd be worthy. Then if, I can't just get any job, I have to get a proper, like a good career job. And then it's just like, I started working as a project manager, but that's not good enough. I have to try and be the best project manager that I can be. And I would burn myself out. And it honestly, I'm not even going to lie. I think if I just calmed the hell down and prioritized my self-care and looked after myself, grounded myself, I probably would have been a much better project manager than the version of me that was constantly overworking, early mornings, late nights, on the weekend. I didn't have a life. I had like, my friendships were deteriorating. I didn't have any hobbies or interests. Like work was my life. It was very sad. And that's why I just feel so passionate, because if the version of me a few years ago could have known that that wasn't the way, that it wasn't healthy, then maybe I would have had better success in a lot of the different things in my life. Like overall, I would have been a lot happier, less anxious. Like anxiety was such a big part of my life. Like that's what pushed me to keep going and push myself to work those times. And then I would burn out. burn out. It's horrible. And I don't wish it on anyone. And I feel like if you are a big advocate for hustle culture, you probably will experience burnout at some point because you won't have work-life balance. Your stress levels will be through the roof. eventually your body will say no. And there's this book called The Body Keeps the Score. I recommend you read it. I love it so much. Read that book if you want to learn more about how your body responds to stress. Same, there's another book called When the Body Says No as well. It's on my reading list. I've not actually read it, but I have seen the author and listened to his podcast, or when he's been on podcasts, and I have followed what he's been doing, and I am going to read the book eventually once I get through my pile of 20 books. But yeah, side note. But yeah, back to the main point. Burnout is not good. And if you're wondering, am I burnt out? What is burnout? And for me, burnout felt like depression. I've been depressed before. It's no secret. I will talk about my mental health struggles. I want to create a safe space for perfectionists to feel seen and heard. And yeah, I've been depressed before. I've suffered with anxiety loads of times. And for me, burnout felt like depression. I just lost my way. I just felt like I became an empty shell, just a husk of my former self. And I remember when I was burnt out, I had a really bad burnout episode a few years ago when I was working really, really hard. And at the time, I didn't really know what was happening to me. I just knew that I didn't feel like myself. And I wrote this poem, actually. I'm not going to read it because I don't want to embarrass you with my terrible poetry. But the poem was basically saying how I felt like I was cosplaying as myself. And if you don't know what cosplaying means, it's basically, when people go to these cartoon conventions and they dress up as a character, or Marvel, they dress up as Iron Man and they play a character and stuff like that. That's basically what cosplaying means. And I felt like I was cosplaying as myself. I was doing all the things that Teresa should be doing. I was going to the gym. I was doing the things that used to make me happy, but it didn't make me feel happy. And I wrote about how it just felt like I was stepping into a skin of my past self, but it just doesn't fit. The old me just doesn't fit anymore. It felt like I was so empty, and the skin of my past self that was happy and that was living my life was just too baggy on me now. And it just was such a big disconnect between myself, my current self, and my past self, and the future version of myself. I just felt so off, so isolated, so tired. I was exhausted, and that's a big sign of burnout, is physical exhaustion, constant fatigue, feeling drained despite sleeping enough. You might even have physical symptoms such as headaches, muscle tensions, stomach issues, things like that. It's just never ending. And that's why I just can't promote hustle culture. We need balance, because that feeling of just exhaustion, it's horrible. And then never mind the fact that there's emotional exhaustion. So feeling emotionally drained, overwhelmed, depleted. I used to have mood swings all the time. I'd be irritable, and I just felt so detached from work, from my relationships. It was just really unhealthy. My performance at work started to decline because I just didn't have the energy to give as much as I used to give. I was a bit more frazzled. I couldn't concentrate as much. And I just felt so bad for not being productive. And I tried hard, but I just didn't have it in me. My mental capacity just wasn't there. I was burnt out. There was nothing left for me to give. And, I started to lose motivation. As I mentioned before, I lost interest in things that I used to find enjoyable before. I just felt really apathetic and indifferent to life. There was just nothing that could make me smile anymore. It was I was just going through life on autopilot, and the sound had been set to the lowest volume. The color had been set to black and white. It was just horrible. And, I was just in a much more negative headspace. I didn't think my circumstances could change. I would tell my managers and my co-workers that I was struggling, and I just felt like they didn't believe me. And the thing is, I'm sure they did, but in the headspace that I was in, because I was so burnt out, I just wanted instant relief. I wanted my working situation to change immediately, and it wasn't possible. How organizations are. You can't just change just like that. But I was so burnt out that I just couldn't. I just needed things to change right now. And it was just such a horrible experience for me. And I know I wasn't a great person to be around. I withdrew socially. I isolated myself from my friends and my families, my colleagues. Like, I'd go into work and people would be like, Teresa, are you okay? Like, they could immediately see I wasn't okay. And I'd just be like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, no emotion, nothing. It was, yeah, I wasn't the greatest. Another symptom of burnout is, insomnia or sleep disturbances. You might find it difficult to fall asleep, or you might just be sleeping a lot. You might just have stress, anxiety, racing thoughts. You may even have physical symptoms such as like palpitations, shortness of breath, chest pain. I remember going to the doctors like so many times for different things. I actually got prescribed antidepressants when I went to the doctors about my fatigue and stuff. I have no problem with antidepressants. I've been on antidepressants in the past, like a good few years ago. I was only on it for 6 months, but it did make a difference at the time until it didn't help. And so I'm not like crapping on antidepressants. If you need it, take it. But a doctor just immediately prescribed me antidepressants. And because I knew myself, I was self-aware enough to know that this wasn't depression that I was suffering with. It was burnout, and antidepressants wasn't really going to solve the problem. So instead, I decided to choose other things like doing yoga, going for mindful walks, reconnecting with myself. I had therapy as well, and I just started reading a lot of self-help books, journaling a lot, writing poetry, doing a lot of artwork to try and bring out some form of expression. And luckily, in the end, I didn't need the antidepressants at all. But, I'd say, I'm not a doctor, but take into account like what you need, what the doctor recommends, do your own research. And I feel like if I was depressed, then I probably would have jumped for the antidepressants. But I knew myself well enough to know I wasn't depressed. I was just burnt out. I was exhausted. I had nothing left to give. I needed a break. So if any of these symptoms sound like what you have, then you may be suffering with burnout. And it's okay. And the thing with burnout, you can't just like randomly get better. Like, you actually have to make a conscious decision to heal your burnout. And there's different ways you can do that. But you need a break. You need a proper break. Like, not a break where you go, okay, I'm taking a week off from work, but I'm still going to have my work phone on and check my emails. No, you need to detach from the things that are causing you stress. You need to go on holiday, or like, not even go on holiday, but like take a break if you can. Find ways to like just nurture yourself, nurture your mind, nurture your body, reconnect with your purpose and your values, and get some clarity in like the direction you want to take in life. Because maybe the reason why you're suffering with burnout is because you're in a situation that's not right. Like, maybe you wanted this career and you worked hard for it, like in my case, but then ultimately you realize that it's not the right career for you. And you still persevere because you don't want to quit. Maybe this is a sign that your body is saying, hey, I need you to reevaluate your life. And you can do that by just journaling. And like, as I mentioned, self-care is essential if you want to improve your mental health and well-being and not burn out in the future. Like, the reason I burnt out in the past was because I didn't prioritize self-care. Like, I prioritized work. Like, I wouldn't take that extra 5 minutes to just, do a short meditation or journal or express gratitude. I wouldn't do it. I'll be like, there's no time. I got to work. But it doesn't work in the end. You need to take time to actually, like, for yourself and actually practice self-care. Like, it's essential. That means making time for any hobbies, interests, activities that bring you joy. Like, you might say, I'm so busy, how do I do it? But you are aiming for consistent, sustainable productivity. And in order to achieve that, you need to look after yourself. You can't be productive when your body is not nurtured. Your body and your mind are the things that are going to make you be productive. So if you don't look after it, how are you ever going to be productive in a good way? Like, you might do more, but the work will be less quality, and then eventually you will burn out because it's not sustainable, guys. Okay. And that's why I preach mindful productivity. Like, I know I'm like talking about productivity all the time, but I really need, like, my productivity system incorporates self-care and energy management into it. Boundaries are important too. And you can't shortcut it. I'm sorry. Like, you want to be productive, you want to achieve your goals, you want to girl boss it to the top, or guy boss it to the top. Then I'm sorry, it's a non-negotiable. Self-care is a priority. And then, like, as part of that, like going back to boundaries, which I mentioned before, you need to set boundaries. You have to have boundaries between your work time. So I'm only going to work between 9 and 5 p.m. I'm not going to do any overtime. If I have to do overtime, it'll be for an exceptional reason, and I'll only do as much as I have to do, and then I will log off. And then you will say between these times, between 7 and 10 p.m., this is time where I'm going to spend focusing on my hobbies. I'm going to read a book. I'm going to journal. I'm going to hang out with friends, but it's my personal time. You need to have a distinction between your work and your personal life. Okay. And I'm saying this as someone who's now recently, like, I was able to actually do it whilst working as a project manager. Like, once I went through this journey, I was able to heal a lot of my hustle culture mindset and focus on living a values-based life, which meant I had a lot more boundaries when it came to work. I logged off. I was very happy. I achieved so much while I was working full-time as a project manager. I started my blog. I was studying 2 courses, 2 intense courses, one in life coaching and one in counseling skills, as well as learning music theory and studying my music theory grades. So I was doing a lot, as well as like dancing. I was in dancing classes, networking, and I'm an introvert, by the way. And I will mention this many times. But even that, but because I juggled my energy and I balanced it and I set boundaries, like when my social battery was about to leave, I would go. And if I needed a week off where I didn't talk to anyone, I would do that. I would listen to my mind and my body. And that's why it's important to have boundaries and know when you need to say no. Because I never burnt out. Like, despite doing all of that, I never burnt out. I was very calm. I was very happy. I was very, very productive without burning out. And I was doing more than I've ever done in my entire life. So if I can do it, you can too. The next thing I want to talk about when it comes to like hustle culture, I know a lot of people are like grind, work hard, be at your laptop until 3 a.m., study. And my question is, when is time for like healthy eating and meal prepping and exercising and having a decent sleeping schedule? Because for me, that kind of hustle culture mindset seems like you're just living off caffeine, which is not good. Like, if you drink a lot of coffee and caffeine, I'm here to tell you that it's actually making you more tired. And I had to learn that lesson the hard way because I was so tired all the time, had really bad fatigue, and I kept trying to figure out ways to improve my energy levels. And it's only when I just cut out coffee from my diet completely that I've had much better energy levels. I haven't drank coffee in probably about a year and a half, and it's been such a good thing. Like, at first it was hard. I went extremely tired, but then afterwards, I bounced back. Big disclaimer, I do like a matcha latte. I'm a bit bougie, get me a coconut matcha latte with vanilla syrup, okay? But that's my Starbucks order, by the way, guys, if you want to buy me a coffee. Well, not even a coffee, if you want to buy me a coffee alternative. But yeah, I know that has a bit of caffeine in it, so don't sue me, okay? I know, but it has significantly less caffeine than coffee does, okay? And I just enjoy the taste, which is weird. I used to hate it, but now I'm a big matcha latte convert. Yeah, in back to regular scheduling. You need to prioritize healthy habits, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And the next thing I would recommend is, if you're experiencing burnout and you're tired, is to reach out to friends and family, get help, speak to a therapist, speak to a life coach, speak to someone who can help you and guide you. I do offer coaching services for perfectionists who feel like they want to realign their life, they want to have healthier habits, they want to create mindful productivity systems, live a life aligned with their values, balance their mind, their energy levels, along with their time management skills. If that's something you want help with, then yeah, reach out to me. I offer a 1-to-1 90-minute intensive coaching session, but I also offer regular 1-to-1 coaching sessions where, I can work with you, and it might take a bit of time. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, I managed to heal my perfectionism in 3 weeks. Wow. Like, let's be real. You've spent your whole life having this mindset. Do you really think 3 random sessions are going to just change your mindset? And don't listen to what these other coaches and other people are saying. They just want your money. Like, let's be real. They're going to sell you the miracle cure. The truth is, like, healing takes time. It's a journey, and I can support you with that. And I know it's going to be long term, but there are other ways. And, you know, there's self-help books, there's free resources you can use. Like, I actually have a free productivity toolkit, which has different journal prompts and tips you can use, planners that you can print out, things like that. But again, it's just about starting small and being consistent, and eventually, like, you can improve. There's all, as I said before, therapy or speaking to a mental health professional, like, that is really helpful as well. If you know that there's deeper, maybe childhood trauma related things for your perfectionism, and instead of, you know, you don't necessarily want to move forward right now, you need to look into the past and heal that bit first, then yeah, get therapy. You know, I've had therapy before. Okay, I'm a big believer in therapy. I've had therapy on and off since I was a teenager. And again, that's because I suffered with anxiety and I was bullied a lot as a child. These things, like, it does play into who you are as a person. So if you need therapy, there is no shame in it. And if you want some reassurance about therapy, there's also different types of therapy out there as well. So drop me a message if you want some advice on which type of therapy to go for. Like, I can signpost you. I'm not a trained professional. Like, I am studying counseling skills, and I am going on to study a diploma or a master's in psychotherapy and counseling. But right now, I'm going to be real with you. I'm a trained life coach, and I can signpost you to different counseling services if you live in the UK. But I can just give you some general guidance and different types of therapy out there if you're a bit confused, if you live globally. And then the final thing I want to mention when it comes to healing your burnout and shedding this hustle culture mentality is to just reflect and adjust. That's it. Start small, you know, maybe do like a sentence a day. And then I like to do a weekly review, which I talk a lot about in the last episode about bullet journaling. But just doing a weekly review about, you know, what went well, what didn't go so well. Was I in alignment with my values? Is there anything that I'd like to improve next week? Any of my favorite memories or lessons learned from the week? Things like that. It just helps me figure out what's working and what's not working. You know, so maybe you have a really productive week at work and you're like, wow, that's amazing. You could just easily forget about it and then slip right back into hustle culture mentality. But if you note that actually this really productive week was due to you spending some time prioritizing your self-care and your well-being and going for a mindful walk and hanging out with friends, and yeah, like, you did all those things, but you were also really, really productive, and it doesn't feel like a lot, like you feel like you've nurtured your energy and you've not nurtured your energy, you feel like you've replenished your energy and you feel good to go, then jot that down, make a note of it, because then next time it happens and you're working really hard and you're like, wow, I feel great. You can see the pattern. You can see what works for you and what doesn't. And that's something that I had to do. Like, I realized that when I did yoga every day, my life got better. And I'm not going to lie, I don't like doing yoga every day. Like, I don't like mentally preparing to do yoga every day, if that makes sense. Because it's just like, oh, I got to do yoga. It's just, I don't have time. I'm too busy. But then I look back on my reflections and I know for a fact that when I do yoga, I feel so much better afterwards. It's just the before stage where I'm trying to like, find a yoga video. That's when my doubt creeps in and it's trying to like pull me back to bed and like pull me to like scroll on Instagram. Whereas I know for a fact yoga makes a difference. So the more you know about yourself and the more you know what works for you, the better you will be able to manage yourself and be productive and create a mindful productivity system. And again, just practice compassion. Be kind to yourself in this journey, okay? Because I really, really, really need to reiterate this. Healing is not just a linear straight line, and I would be lying to you if I promised you that healing is quick, fast, and straightforward. Healing is hard. There'll be times when you're like doing amazing, And then there'll be times where you have a bad week and then you think, oh my God, all my effort has just gone to waste. It's not. It's part of the journey. If I told you, like, I might have to do an episode where I reflect on my healing journey when I decided to dedicate a whole year to intensely healing. Like, there were times it was where I cried because I thought I'd gone backwards and hadn't learned, but it was all part of the journey. Like, each bad thing, each time I slipped up, I learned from it and I moved on. So when you're detangling yourself from this hustle culture mentality of grind, 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 it's going to be hard because you've told yourself that's the only way to be successful. And now you realize that there's another way. You've had a complete paradigm shift, but you're still going to fall into old habits sometimes. And that's okay. I need you to just say that, like, hey, I'm a human. I'm a human participating in the human experience, and perfection was never an option. I'm never going to, you're not going to be perfect. Perfect doesn't exist. Okay, so the perfect healing journey doesn't exist. The perfect productivity system doesn't exist. That's why I recommend you just regularly review, reflect, and adapt. Because sometimes what was working for you 6 months ago might not be working for you now. That's okay. But that's how you're going to be sustainable. That's how you're going to create your productivity system. And that's what you need to do to break out of this hustle culture mentality. At the end of the day, you are the only person you're going to live with for your whole life. So you might as well reconnect with yourself, look after yourself, and be so kind and loving to yourself. Just think, how do you talk to your friends when they're going through a rough time? Do you crap on them and basically tell them that they're a failure and they're never going to achieve anything? Or do you see the beauty in them and you see the talent in them and you see the goodness in them and you say, no, I believe in you. I know you're going to achieve your goals. You're just going through a rough time. Like, that voice and the things you would say to your friends, you need to say it to yourself. Okay? You need to be your own best friend. Like, I'm not going to lie, I am my own self. I talk to myself a lot. Like, I might actually be crazy. But if I celebrate my small wins. When I got 200 followers on my Instagram account, I celebrated. I was like, oh my God, I did it. 200 followers. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. I told my friends, I sipped on some Bajan rum punch. I treated myself because I did so well. And 200 might not seem like a lot to a lot of people, but when you think 200, imagine a room full of 200 people. That's crazy, and I had to be kind to myself. Yeah, maybe other people got 10K followers in the same amount of time, but I'm not them. I'm on my own journey. And you need to have that same kind of compassion, because consistency is what's going to get you the growth, not just going all or nothing, pedal to the metal and then burning out, cars not moving, you're stuck. Basically, slow and steady wins the race, which is what I'm trying to say. And that's what I'm trying to preach, because perfect doesn't exist, guys. I hope this helps. Maybe it's a little bit of a rambly episode, but I just really want to preach how important it is to shed this hustle culture. Hustle culture is a myth. It doesn't work. The people who were advocating it for it years ago, they're the ones preaching mindfulness, self-care, look after yourself, love yourself. They're the ones talking about how bad it was for their health and their well-being and their friendships and stuff. So learn from them, learn from me, because since I stopped believing in hustle culture and I decided to slow down and create a mindful productivity system, balance my energy management, reconnect to myself through mindfulness, learn how to identify my needs and set boundary, be kind to myself, regularly reflect. Since I started doing all of these things, I have been so productive. My success has increased exponentially. I am more successful than I thought I would ever be. And I feel okay. I don't feel burnt out. I feel like I can manage everything. And that's just from slowing down and just looking after, putting myself first and aligning my life to my values too. When I know who I am and what I want and the type of life I want to live and what is important to me, then I just align my life to that. The things that aren't relevant, they melt away, and I set boundaries. I say no. And that's okay, because I've created a life that I wanted to live and I thought wasn't possible. A productive life where I'm not burning out. What? That was impossible for me back then. Burnout was something I was used to. For even back when I was in uni, I was constantly burning out. So if I can completely reshape my life, so can you. All right. So I want you to listen to this episode and reflect. pull out your journal and start journaling now. I need you to ask yourself, is hustle culture working for me? And like if it is working for you, then cool. But still journal about it. Like journal, like whatever your thoughts and feelings are from this episode, journal. It doesn't even have to be a long page. Like if it is a long page, then great. But if it's not, it could just be a sentence. Could be a word. But I really want you to sort of reflect on this experience. And yeah, I feel passionate. I feel really riled up about this. I'm like, yeah, anti-hustle culture, guys. We could do this. We're going to break free. But yeah, I feel so motivated about it. And I just want to help you. I want to help you be a better version. I want to help you shed this whole idea of perfection. I want to help you achieve more in less time. Okay? And if you want to follow me, follow this podcast, follow me on Instagram at The Valued Life, or check my blog post at thevaluedlife.co.uk. And yeah, I'm also going to put out a Sunday reset newsletter where it's like journal prompts and reflections on the week to help you end the week on a high note and prepare to start the new week in a really good mindset. So let me know if that's something you're interested in and you want to sign up. But as always, thank you so much for listening. And remember that life is for living.